Here's this week's Steam Code Raffle winner. I give a Steam code for a free game away with every video I do, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment that wouldn't violate Twitter's terms of service. Make sure you have contact info in your YouTube profile so I can reach out to you. A complete list of games to choose from is in the description below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a chance to win. Now on with the show. I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I've been playing Darkest Dungeon 2 and Dokapon Kingdom Connect. Last Halloween, you'll recall that I took a stab at the original Darkest Dungeon and found that the atmosphere was compelling and the horror it was trying to instill absolutely the kind of thing that goes right up my alley. In fact, the best metric for knowing that I like a game is having played it for any span of time after the review has come out, and I'd probably put another 20 hours into it. And Darkest Dungeon 2 releasing on Steam this week was just the dismal breath of toxic and corruption-laden fresh air that I needed. Well, I do slightly need to clarify one thing. While Darkest Dungeon 2 is new on Steam this week, it's not necessarily a brand new game. It's been on Epic's storefront for a while, but given that they bought my favorite gaming company to work on one of my least favorite games, then I'd be more inclined to use a trash disposal unit as a fleshlight before I spend any more money on that godforsaken storefront. But now it's free from Epic jail, and I can relieve my real-life anxiety and depression by being virtually anxious and depressed. Darkest Dungeon 2 is also a little bit misleading in its title. In the last game, you primarily explored in dungeons, of course, with your party being animated as they scroll to the side and encounter traps and various monstrous entities. When you get control in Darkest Dungeon 2, the first thing you'll notice is the significant upgrade in visuals while maintaining the same style. Rather than each individual character being a static image or a slightly animated papercraft cutout, now it's full 3D models with the morbid texturing still present from the last time around. One of the next big things you'll notice is that instead of scrolling to the side when you start your exploration phase, now you are piloting a stagecoach that is traveling up various kinds of decrepit roads with your destination still somewhat mapped out like they were prior, except now you're only able to go in one direction on the map, meaning that you have to make choices and plan routes strategically with the knowledge that you won't be able to double back and search for resources or combat experience like in the last one. Another significant change is the party management. In the last one, you could recruit any number of multiple classes from the local stagecoach, and I worded that very intentionally, as in you could recruit multiple people of the same class and compose your party with them if you chose to do so. This time around, you're only allowed to pick one of each class provided you've unlocked them. What's more, the classes themselves can be upgraded overall as far as options that they can take on an individual run, but the individual character themselves does not permanently maintain those upgrades, so each adventure is being started with what are effectively level 1 starting units. It means that you can somewhat lose attachment to the individual classes, but they counter this by fleshing out each individual class's backstory, which is weird because since I don't maintain them from run to run, basically there's a bunch of individuals having the exact same tragic story playing out and then going on adventures, but I digress. The last significant change that comes to mind is inter-character relationships. For each individual playthrough, a character can gain an affinity or aversion for one another, and they can feed off each other in a positive or negative way, with status effects or bonuses that reflect as such. Is a healer focusing too much on the tank class rather than trying to spread out the healing evenly? While your mid-range rogue might start to resent that healer. It makes for another compelling dynamic, but also another significant point of frustration when things could start going sideways, and as ever, one of Darkest Dungeon 2's main points is that you're going to screw up eventually. Something is going to go wrong, your characters are going to start panicking, and you're going to lose significant progress. And while I had some frustrating bouts when I was figuring out stuff at the very start, I ultimately found myself hooked as I was just as much as I was the first time around. Darkest Dungeon 2 is a very decent sequel. It adds enough new polishes and flourishes and mixes up the old formula just enough to make it feel entirely fresh, while still maintaining enough of what made the first game great without needing to exploit its foundation too heavily. And let it be known that I am horrendously glossing over the level of depth and complexity in your resource management. I mean, at the time of writing, I'm still trying to figure out how to use battle items. The only significant complaint I have is I do somewhat miss the quiet and contemplative environment of the dungeons on the first one that you could side-scroll your way through. I might not be able to calmly drink in the atmosphere and be able to just sit there quietly alone in my thoughts, which can honestly be the most dangerous hazard in a game like this, but that's a small concession to make when everything else has been polished so thoroughly. But that's not all I was playing this week. I had a game with a party of adventurers being affected by the actions that others took and beginning to have malicious intent for actions that were taken that resulted in horrible betrayals and bloodshed, and also there was Darkest Dungeon 2. That first game, though, was Dokapon Kingdom Connect. For those curious what I'm talking about with something so cute and colorful, Dokapon Kingdom is a party game that is a mixture between a fantasy RPG, Mario Party, and Monopoly. With those last two items serving as descriptors, you can understand why violence was entirely an option, and why I made sure to have some weapons on hand if I needed to defend myself when I had some friends over to help me play it. You see, Dokapon Kingdom is best intended to be a party game, and so this review reflects two playthroughs I had of it. one of me playing by myself with an NPC as a rival, and another with friends in a genuine party game setup. Each round boils down to a few in-game cycles. Like in Mario Party, you're given a number to start your turn, move around a game board/fantasy world, and depending on the square you land on, actions are taken. Landing on otherwise inconspicuous squares gets you a random battle using a rock, paper, scissors style means of combat. You can level up, get equipment, or get thoroughly screwed over by these encounters. You can also land on squares that get you equipment, items, and Mario Party-style boosters. The Monopoly aspect comes in if you can liberate towns that are occupied by slightly stronger monsters. These squares are the most crucial objective for an individual round because the game measures you by the number of assets, and towns jump up your value exponentially. By the end of a particular round, whoever has the most value is considered the winner. After both setups, I can definitively say that the party game or multiplayer avenue is the way to go. You see, anyone who's played Monopoly or Mario Party knows that feeling of everyone having a laugh when someone gets royally screwed over by the mechanics of the game. When it's just the AI doing it to you, it's annoying, and if things weren't so reliant on luck, then there's a fair chance it would just become boring. Given the nature of how most party games function when people are playing, it can take a while for a single round of turns to play out, and given the number of terms you can set for a campaign, you can ensure that things could last obscenely long. I could see this game facilitating a weekly get-together, either in person or online, and since you can save the campaign every few turns, this could be something people come back to on a regular basis. Fortunately, since I was figuring out the mechanics and incentives of the game right alongside with the other people I invited to play it with, the spirit was jovial and ultimately I had fun with Dokapon Kingdom. Although I did feel bad when a run of luck started really screwing over one player. I mean, at one point he told me to pay an assassin bot to do them in just to see what would happen because the game was absolutely determined that he was not going to progress for the starting half of our session. And since everyone was in such a good mood, fortunately there was no bloodshed. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to put away all the weapons that I hid in my proximity in case violence broke out. Hey, look at that, it's the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe and remember that commenting can actually win you a free prize. So until next time, this is Gheeotine saying thanks for watching and keep your head on your shoulders.